Alright, Shalom, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise to Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, Yahweh who the world ignorantly calls God, and Yahweh Shai who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. I just wanted to do a little video real quick on basically my view on how things are going to go when, SHTF finally comes, man. Okay, and you can base this prediction or observation, for lack of better words, on what we see going on in the world, inside joke, in the world right now. Slovakia. But one thing that I envision is if you look at, these riots that are going on right now, the whole George Floyd, that, pretty much, they ain't rioting about that anymore. A few other black, so-called, black unarmed men, were shot down recently as well. So, the people going out there rioting about that, which they should, right? They should. But, one thing to consider is these are peaceful protests. Somebody's going to say, well, how could you say peaceful if they're burning down buildings, breaking in, buildings and robbing the stores? Some people, one person might end up getting killed, maybe two people if it's, that serious out of, 20,000. The way I would answer that is, even though it's a little violent, all those protesters still have a full belly, right? They are all still full. They're not going hungry. Okay, when they're going to be out there, all pissed off and rioting that, they have a food shortage. They don't have enough food to feed themselves and their family. Now that's when things get serious, man. Because right now they're, protesting about dumb things. As in, their life doesn't depend on it. But when it comes to food and water, man, that's when it gets kicked up to overdrive. The riots and, what's the word I'm looking for? How desperate these people are going to get out here, man. Okay, it's going to become very, bad. We're coming into the time of the election. You got the winter coming. You have, the global pandemic still here. All right, you having, a bad economy, right? 40 million people are possibly going to face homelessness in the next coming couple months. So things are getting bad out here, man. All right, and really that all ties back to the scriptures. All right, that all ties back to the scriptures, right? Because, what was one thing that Christ said to look for? When you read Matthew, the 24th chapter, it says, when the apostles went to Christ, they asked, what will be the signs of the end of the world? And he told them, there will be uproars of the people, right? Famines, earthquakes, and pestilences, right? Nations against nations, and all those things. You literally see that every single day for the past couple of years, man. Okay, if you talk to somebody who lived during the, the 60s, 70s, even those of us who, were alive, say maybe in the late 80s, 90s, right? If you talk to, if you yourself aren't from the time, like myself, we're not. If you talk to somebody who is, they'll tell you that, what you see going on right now, that was unheard of back then. Or it would be, major news if, somewhere in the world got a level 1 magnitude earthquake. That'd be like, world news. But I mean, that's every day now. Okay? Multiple ones a day. So it just shows you, man, that, when you deal with the scriptures, what you see going on clearly lines up with the scriptures. Okay? But, just off my observation of what I see going on when SHTF is, once again, I'm going to start with the whole, riots. They're relatively peaceful compared to what they are going to be when the riots are not based upon, political injustice, but rather based upon the lack of food and water. say for an example, if you ever went, say a day or two without eating or drinking, which let me say this, I recommend everybody go 24 hours without eating food or drinking water. They call it a fast, which we do it. I've done it a couple times when we do the Day of Atonement. All right, we're basically gotta go 24 hours without eating or drinking. That's another topic. But just in the what's the word I'm looking for? Just in everyday life, it's beneficial to go without eating and drinking for say a day or so. Well, maybe you should have water, of course, but you also have to take into consideration that there will come a time where you don't have access to drinking water, man. And what are these average peons gonna do when that happens, man? Okay? And the reason I'm mentioning this is if you go 24 hours without eating, I'm telling you, man, that's really gonna, we'll say it's not easy. All right? Especially just for somebody who is used to having 3 meals a day, and it's not including drinks and snacks. With that, it'd probably add up to around 5 meals a day if we add all that together. So what happens when they don't have not even one? Not even a glass of water for a day or two. People are gonna resort to cannibalism. Like, look what's going on over at, what is it, North Korea? They're eating their dogs and cats over there. So this shows you, man, that people are gonna get desperate out here. Okay, that's why in the coming collapse, the currency is going to be food and water. Okay, something you can get for very cheap right now. Oh, and that goes back to the scriptures. What is that? Second Ezra is the 16th chapter, right? Commodities will be so good cheap on the earth that they will think that they're in a good case. Right, so stuff's cheap right now. Right, stuff is cheap compared to what the price will be in the coming time. So that's why it's very what's the word I'm looking for? Very smart, I guess one could say, or in other words, your life depends on it, to stock up on these goods right now. Just even the scriptures tell you a wise man foresees the evil and will prepare himself. Right, so we foresee the evil, so we have the opportunity to prepare ourselves, why the average person out here doesn't know what the hell's going on. Alright, so that's one thing to expect, is chaos when there's no food and water. And the majority of those people will die out within the first 2 weeks. Because, somebody might say, yeah, it can go 3 weeks without food, which is true. Your body technically can. However, that's not going to be a good mental, feeling. Trust me, if you go a day without eating even two, you're going to find out real quick that your body isn't going to be working well with that. All right, so even though it technically is possible to live 3 weeks without eating, the thing is your body's going to be in a breaking down condition where it's going to be, hard to, really move around. You know what I'm saying? So it's basically going to be eating itself at that point. Doesn't matter how much fluid you put into it. Eventually it's going to, eat itself from the inside out. Inside joke. Anyway, let's see. Right. Another possibility that, I've seen people speak about is the EMP, which basically is it's some type of weapon that a nation can use against another nation that wipes out the electricity, as in phones, cable, obviously electricity, which pretty much runs everything, right? And let me say this, man, if that happens, I mean that's doomsday. That's literally doomsday right there. Society cannot operate like that. this isn't the first Great Depression, okay? Because if we look at the 1930s compared to what is going to happen in the next upcoming years, the people in the Great Depression, that's going to be considered, they're going to be considered lucky compared to what these people are going to experience. You know why? Because back then they didn't have the technology they have today. Which, why is that important? Because today people are reliant on that electricity. Another thing as well is people were not as obese back then as they are today. Another thing is back then people actually had many skills that they could use, such as sewing clothing, right, making clothing, right, even basic hunting skills. People still had those back then, and many other skills like that that don't require electricity and internet. All right, back then they had that. Okay, you had what was it? Yeah, back then in the 1930s, you had 13, 14-year olds who would have to go out and work. But however, a lot of them today, well, a lot of them could do it because you become an adult at 12 years old, according to human biology. But a lot of them, they were never taught how to be an adult. They were always taught as children, right? Like play video games all day. But back then they weren't like that. All right, back then they grew up faster because more responsibility was put upon them than it is today. So taking that into consideration, I mean, damn, you got grown ass men in their mid-20s who are still sitting in mom's basement playing damn video games, man. So what's gonna happen to that guy when SHTF, right, or the Second Great Depression? Which, I mean, we're already in that. I mean, going by statistics, clearly it's worse right now than it is back then. However, one has to take into consideration that there's way more people on Earth today, specifically in America, than there was back then. So, only time will tell. That's just the way you got to look at it. Okay, but my prediction is all this will take place within the next couple years, which is only an idea. It's only what's the word I'm looking for? Not necessarily a prediction, but great possibilities of things that will soon happen. I suppose that is a way that one can look at it. That all these things mentioned are great possibilities of things that could take place. So, with that being said, prepare, spiritually and, physically, get yourself in order. If some of us, that are overweight, we might want to, try to, lose some of that right now if possible. Okay, you might want to try to, fast a day or two just to get your body used to going a little, extended period of time without eating. That'll always be helpful. All right, work on survival skills, right? Because that's going to come in handy. Right now you have something called the internet, which is what you're watching this video on, and one day it's not going to be around. If an EMP happens, if SHTF happens, people ain't going to be sitting around watching YouTube because odds are that ain't going to be around. So, get the information you need right now, or in other words, get it while the going's good. Side joke. But anyway, I'm going to call that the lesson there. Of course, give all praise to God, Hashem Yoshai, and I'm going to say shalom.